Hello, all my beautiful and wonderful aviators. MSFS here. So, we just recently got some more info regarding Flight Simulator 2024. Asobo just recently did one of their Q&A dev streams where they pretty much exclusively, almost exclusively, talked about MSFS 2024. And we're going to go over quite a few things that they talked about. I didn't get every single detail, but I got a lot of the stuff that stood out to me, and this should be a somewhat lengthy video, so let's go ahead and dive right in. Alright, let's first go over some of the technical questions that were asked in the stream. Now, just a little disclaimer, I am not a big... I am a techie person, but I wouldn't call myself, like, tech savvy or, like, really intelligent when it comes to PC parts or how things work and all that. So if I get anything wrong, just putting that disclaimer out there. You can correct me in the comments. I have no issue with that. So one of the things that's actually perplexed people a lot is just how much RAM this game is potentially going to require, because Asobo has a minimum recommended and ideal spec requirements for not only just Flight Simulator 2020 but also 2024. But in ideal, it apparently says 64 gigs of RAM is ideal for the sim. And this had a lot of people thinking, geez, do I need to upgrade my RAM? Well, there's a little asterisk you should put into that. You don't technically need 64 gigs. So basically what Sebastian actually said, he's the CEO of Asobo, he basically said the reason why 64 gigabytes is ideal is because if you have other applications on the background, he didn't go into specifics, but if you have other things running, and you have 64 gigs of RAM, then your sim shouldn't have a problem. Sebastian even went on to say that he has a 32 gig machine, and the sim runs just fine. It's just only when he's got other applications running, the sim begins to slow down. So the 64 gigs of RAM seems to be more like a fail-safe. It's like a just-in-case type of thing. You don't really need it. It's, you know, for me, the most I'll have open is just probably my web browser. But if you're running like a bunch of other stuff, then yeah, you may want to have a good chunk of RAM, like 64 gigs. But for the majority of us, I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal. I think if you have 32 gigs like I do on my PC, it should not be a problem at all. As for the Xbox players, so for Xbox Series S and X, the target frame rate is going to be 30 frames per second, but when it comes to resolution, on the Xbox Series S, it's going to be targeting 1080p, and on X, it's going to be targeting 4K. And that's all I have on when it comes to Xbox. I don't know really. I mean, I think some other details were shared, but I don't know if I really quite understood what they were talking about. So, but let's move on to CPU cores. So, from what I understand, and again, feel free to correct me in the comments. I'm more than willing to see what someone has to say. Give me correct information on this, because remember, I'm not super tech savvy. But apparently, Flight Simulator 2020 didn't utilize a lot of the CPU cores that most people had. And Sebastian also went into detail by saying that his PC was using 80% of them while he was at London Heathrow Airport. And then also stated that in 2020, most of the time, only 50% of the cores in most CPUs were being used. At least that's to my knowledge. You, again, correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. So, So that's good that it looks like we're going to be getting more use out of our CPUs, because I think that was one of the reasons why we might have had some performance issues with 2020, because it just wasn't utilizing all those cores in gamer CPUs. When it comes to the default planes in Flight Simulator 2024, they're actually going to be streamed instead of being installed on your hard drive. Now, I'm pretty sure this is common knowledge with a lot of people right now, but they also went on to say that the same is going to apply to planes you purchased on the marketplace, but you still have the option to download them if you want to. Now, what wasn't made clear is if you can do this with the default planes. So, because when you download stuff in the marketplace, it pretty much goes into your content manager. So if the default planes maybe say are in the content manager, which I don't think they are because it's streamed. I personally would just like to have the option to download some of the planes, not all of them, like maybe the ones I fly the most. I just kind of prefer having them downloaded usually, but I don't know. I'm not too worried about it because, just having everything connected to the internet worries me a little bit sometimes. And believe me, I'm going to get into some more details in that in just a sec. But it is good that, your marketplace stuff and third-party stuff can be downloaded. And you can just move your stuff from the community folder right over to 2024 from the 2020 community folder. So it's pretty easy. But I do understand where they're coming from when they say why they're streaming so much stuff instead of it having to just be on the hard drive, because it dramatically reduces load times. We'll see when we play the game, but they say it reduces load times and install times. So, because if you ever have had to just install Flight Simulator 2020 once, it was a freaking nightmare. And God forbid the servers weren't functioning correctly. It was a nightmare, and I've had to do it at least once or twice, and it was not fun. So that is something I'm a little concerned about. But still, when it comes to this game being very internet based and very server based, if you do lose an internet connection, it looks like you may not be able to play the sim, at least from what we're seeing. I don't know. There was a lot of I don't want to maybe say tiptoeing around, but it wasn't a very clear answer, at least from what I've seen. So a consistent internet connection is most likely required. So, but at the same time, can I be really that upset about this? I mean, yes and no. So here's the thing. If we want to get all of this detail with the scenery and just making this look like as much as Earth as possible, I'm sorry, you're not going to be able to do that without by installing that on your hard drive. There's just no way you can fit all that kind of information on there. So you have to stream it. And when it comes to the planes, I see what they're doing. I just kind of wish we'd have the option to download the planes, at least the default ones. Maybe we do. Maybe I'm missing something, but I didn't get any concrete answer on that. It was just for marketplace planes. So yeah, if you do lose internet connection, you may not even be able to play the sim. But, it's a kind of a price we have to pay if we want to have all of this incredible immersive detail, because there's just no way you can fit all that on a hard drive. Now let's move on to world and weather. So, first thing, lighting has been redone and will reflect better on clouds depending on the atmosphere and where the light shines. And this is kind of stuff that we already knew, but it's nice that it's there. And wind that interferes with trees, bushes, grass, and water has been improved, which is awesome to know. And again, reiterating on tornadoes again. I know I mentioned in, what was it, like maybe June during the Flight Sim Expo, that Asobo said that tornadoes are unfortunately not going to be a part of the real world live weather because they're just so hard to predict, and they don't usually last very long to get enough data. But they said it is something that they are looking into, and it would definitely be something that we would get post-launch. But it is nice that it's something that they kind of want to do. They're at least trying to look into it. This next bit of news is gonna probably be somewhat disappointing, or I should say very disappointing to a lot of people, because this has been a very requested feature, and that's when it comes to weather radars. It is still being worked on, and there's no word of when it will come to the sim, unfortunately. This one right here is very near and dear to me because I am training to be a glider pilot. Thermals will be improved for gliding, so that is good to know. Historical weather. Now, this is something that people have wanted now. We're not going to begin exactly that, but we are going to get it in a 24-hour span. So, for example, you can slide time back into the past, and the weather will be accurate. The live traffic, including aircraft and boats, will be accurate throughout that period. So, I think that is at least very, very cool. So, I'm excited to see that. This next piece of news is pretty small, but again, the community has been very vocal about this. We now have working windshield wipers. Hooray! So they actually wipe the rain off now. It's not just a static thing. They actually work. That'll be cool to see in the sim. I'm actually excited to see that, believe it or not. When it comes to auto-gem building improvements, they are still a work in progress, and this is something that's actually very interesting. Black Shark AI is no longer working with Asobo because it was apparently too limited in what it could do. I don't know really too much about auto gem building, so I can't really go into too much detail, but for those that have been wondering if there's going to be improvements, Asobo is working on this. Now let's talk about airports here for a second. More specifically, the more high detailed airports, like say in the Deluxe and Premium Deluxe editions from 2020 that are also going to be in 2024. So you'll notice that, and I feel like they talked about this on the stream. So if you bought the Premium Deluxe edition for 2020 and you don't want to pay for the more expensive editions for 2024, well, here's some good news. If you just buy the standard edition for 2024, all your Premium Deluxe airports or Deluxe airports will carry over and be upgraded into 2024. And I got a funny feeling it's going to be the same thing with planes. And the reason why we can't have any of these Deluxe or Premium Deluxe planes or airports, he only said stuff about airports, but I got a funny feeling it's the same thing with planes. Apparently, Jorg Newman said that it's due to some legal issues, so I can't get into any of those details, but that's a more understandable situation. Is it frustrating? Yeah, but at the same time, can I be that mad? No, because it's something that's kind of out of Asobo's control. So, not something I'm gonna really get too peeved about. Now let's talk a little bit about clouds, because this was something that was interesting, but at the same time, it might concern some people, but it doesn't really concern me. There actually aren't going to be any cloud types beyond cumulus or cirrus clouds. Instead, it's going to be based on a 3D model of that cloud, from what I understand, but it does seem like from all the improvements that we've heard in regards to weather, there's going to be far more accurate data for how those clouds behave in regards to turbulence and maybe possibly precipitation. And we even heard there's going to be more haze and fog present in the real world weather. So I'm not all that worried if the clouds aren't 100% accurate, just as long as it looks somewhat close to the real thing and that they actually behave like they should. And when it comes to world and city updates, they will be released for 2020 and 2024 on the same day. So that's some good news for all of us. Moving on to peripherals and settings. So all your peripherals that worked in 2020, they will work just fine in 2024. So I got my my honeycomb stuff, so that's good to know. You will have to reset all your key bindings and preferences, so that may be a little bit of an inconvenience, but understandable. Force feedback is not going to be an option, unfortunately, in 2024 as of yet. Asobo says they're still waiting for devices to take advantage of that, which is understandable because force feedback is just starting to slowly make a comeback in the flight sim industry, so it's going to probably be a while before we see anything really big on that. Regarding VR, it will be available day one with improvements, and head trackers will also be supported day one, like the Tobii Eye Tracker and Track IR, like I have. So that's good to know, because once you use a Track IR, you just can't go back. Logbook hours, unfortunately, from 2020 will not carry over to 2024. Understandable, but kind of a bummer. Me personally, I don't use the logbook in 2020 like at all, so that doesn't really bother me all that much. Alright, now let's get to the core features of the sim. First, we'll start with online ATC for stuff like VATSIM, IVAO, hopefully that's how it's pronounced. I don't know if it's pronounced as an acronym, but whatever. And Pile Edge, all that will be supported in 2024. And for ground service vehicle AI, it's looking to be improved, but to what extent we don't know exactly. But Asobo is aware of the buggy AI and is looking to keep improving it, and some of the bugs that people have been reporting are ground vehicles not stopping when you're approaching one on your airplane, or just, you know, ground vehicles colliding with aircraft and other vehicles. So Asobo is working on it, but we don't know exactly how it's going at the moment. And now a big one, and that's ATC. And it does look like Asobo has made improvements, but they do seem to be lagging behind other third-party options like Beyond ATC and say Intentions. But one thing that's pretty cool is that Asobo is open to actually bringing in one of these developers in the future, possibly, which I think that might be the best thing, because it just seems like that Flight Simulator is at its best when you have more collaborations and having one team focus on one specific part, and just having Asobo work on the world and the physics for the sim rather than having to focus on every aspect of aviation. So, and from what we're seeing from at least from Beyond ATC, I'm blown away by it. So if we could get something like that implemented into the sim, that would be pretty freaking awesome. When it comes to wear and tear, it is only going to be consistent in career mode. So if you're hoping that your plane is gonna be consistently wear and teared when you're in free flight and you have to keep checking on it, unfortunately that's not gonna happen. But you will still be able to have it if you have third-party planes, like say from A2A, where it does degrade over time in free flight. But when it comes to the default aircraft, that's only gonna be in career mode. Which, yeah, I could see why some people would be disappointed by that, but it is what it is, I guess. Not a huge deal breaker for me, but it is cool that we are going to be having the feature at least in career mode, because it just makes the mode much more in-depth. This next bit of news is going to really frustrate a lot of people, and that has to do with shared cockpit. And now, personally, me, is this one that I am like craving for? Not really, but I know the community desperately wants this feature, and we still got a ways to go. So apparently, Asobo says they have a prototype, but it's looking like it's a long way away from being ready. So I get it, it's frustrating, and believe me, I feel for you guys. I would love to have a shared cockpit feature, but it just doesn't seem like we're going to be getting one anytime soon. Jumping back quickly to ATC, we are also going to be getting some new voices from other countries, so that's pretty cool. I'm sure that's one we already knew about, but just wanted to throw that in there. And when it comes to the walk-around feature, this is so damn cool, and I had a feeling this would be the case, but there will be no limit to how far you can walk away from your plane at all. You can walk around anywhere you want, and there's no limit, and you even have a feature to teleport back to your airplane, so in case you get lost, you can just, go right back to your airplane. Alright, let's jump into some juicy stuff, and that is career mode. So this was actually a very good question that someone asked. What happens if I'm playing career mode and my game crashes, or the internet goes out? Will that count as a failure? Will I lose my plane? Will that be counted as a crash? The good thing is, no, that is not going to count, because apparently Asobo says they have like some type of physics type of thing going on where it detects if it was a crash or not. So if your game crashes while you're in career mode, it's not going to completely screw everything up. I mean, yeah, you have to do the flight over, but you won't lose your plane. So that was actually a very good question that someone asked, and I'm glad they brought that up. And once you completed career mode, or I guess if you complete it, if you can actually complete it, I mean, I guess in getting all the ratings, but you can actually do all that over again and reset it if you want. So for those that want to play through it again, well, you have that option. And when it comes to the character creator, this is not just for career mode, so this is something that you can use in free flight as well, which I think was a given, but it's still good to have that confirmed, because I'm mostly going to be in free flight when I'm playing this. And when it comes to career mode as well, we will be getting future updates. Now, what those are going to look like, we don't have any details on them. My guess is we're probably going to have new careers added at some point. Now, this is something here I was not expecting. So apparently, some third-party aircraft actually can be used in the career mode, but it's only going to be under certain conditions. So apparently there's going to be a system that analyzes the aircraft to see if it's compatible with a particular mission. So I think that's pretty awesome, so hopefully I can use my A2A Piper Comanche. That would be freaking awesome. And now looking at just two general questions. When it comes to an open beta, there isn't going to be one, but there is going to apparently be an alpha, which, not a big deal, because the game comes out in like 2 months, so that's not a huge loss, at least for me. And when it comes to the local Legends planes, they are not going to be updated for 2024 at launch, but Asobo has reiterated that they are dedicated to getting all of those updated and making sure that the physics are correct for 2024. And last but not least, we just have one thing when it comes to marketplace and ownership. If you have the Premium Deluxe planes from 2020 and you just want the Standard Edition for Flight Simulator 2024, your Premium Deluxe planes will all move right over to 2024, so you don't have to worry about getting the Premium Deluxe edition for that, so that's good to know. Anyways, guys, that is going to do it for this video. We had quite a lot of info, and this is not going to be the only dev Q&A we have for Flight Simulator 2024. Asobo is going to most likely be doing another one, hopefully relatively soon. But until then, guys, let me know what news stuck out to you the most, what feature are you most excited for, and what are you all hoping for that hasn't been confirmed yet. Let me know in those comments. And as always, guys, be sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and I will catch you all in my next video. Peace out and happy flying.